This is IBM Museum, and here we are back with the PS2 Model 3026 that I unboxed on a previous video. I've got the monitor that came with the Wheelwriter typewriter as well, and I'm going to go through. Let's get the built-in webcam off so I know I have the full field of view. I want to go through and just plug this in, power it up, and kind of see what's going on. And even I'm tempted for those 1 and 2. I'm going to plug the mouse into port number 1. Might be worthwhile checking that I/O port 66 hex just to see with it. And I'll go through and plug the keyboard into port 2. I'm even going to go through initially. My power switch is off. Oh, and I should have grabbed a riser. Normally you want to have a riser in when you test the PS2 systems that have them. So let me go through and just pause for a moment and get me a riser. Okay, and along with getting the riser and the support bracket for the riser, I also got, and I'll go through and clear this. I'll pull the battery, but I have a Dallas module with an external battery that I can use just in case I get any complaints from this. I also have the ability I can go through and pause. I do have my tweener system off to the side here that I could go through and build a reference diskette anyway. So let's just go through and get everything plugged in as far as the riser and the support. And so initially, well, and let's go through and we'll just do a straight video capture. I left the Wheelwriter display up here and thought, hey, I could just go through and plug it into here and kind of see if there's any difference between that to the didn't tweak too many pins by saying down the edge of that on my real-time clock chip that I got out for that. But let's go through and get over to the VGA capture. It's going to tell us no source here in a moment. Let's power up, get myself back on the screen here. Let's straightening out these. And that's beautiful because that's only the planar memory. So these modules I have on the planar, those Kingston modules, are 1 megabyte apiece. And So that's quite a value in itself. Things tumbling over. These Mall 30 cases, they always tumble over on the heavy side. Okay, so we get a keyboard error. What I'm going to do, and of course it talked about the 163, 164, or 161, 163 errors. I'm going to go through power off. I'm going to switch back. So apparently the 1 and 2 on the Mall 3026 is not the same structure to where it can go through and is happy with the ports being swapped. I'm going to go through just to resolve on that keyboard error. That 301 is a keyboard error. So with the ports, and let's get the tweener system fired up in the meantime. I'm going to have to go through, and I'll just generate a starter diskette from it separately. I'll probably have to pause at some point to that. And this Kingston module, and we even have to see later on after we get the system to boot on whether that on whether the software, the Kingston software, is installed correctly on that drive. And we even have to see, I mean, we didn't get a hard drive error. There we get the 161 and 163. Okay. So no keyboard error that time. So I'm going to go through. I will pause. Okay, I now have my starter diskette. I go through and put in. I'm actually having my tweener system reboot just in the thought that I may have to download that Kingston software. So let me get on the same screen as everyone else and press F1. Goes through and it's accessing the diskette drive. Light went out. Still see the cursor. The hard drive is running. So it acts like it went through, didn't boot from the diskette, but it went through, and after seeing that fail, it went over and booted the hard drive. So that 45 megabyte hard drive is operational. And that is a good thing. It's got Windows 3.1. I didn't see any of the Kingston software come on screen. So it might even be where it's got IBM DOS. Of course, it's got all the AutoExec bat to go through and so that's actually my tweener system. The starting Windows for XP, it's not coming up with the Windows 3.1. It doesn't even have a sound card to it, of course. Okay, and it even has a zip tools on it. And it's important to note that these 45 megabyte hard drives, that is for the model 3026 in particular. I mean, there was not any higher level PS2 that that ran that particular drive. And with even later BIOS version, some of the previous PS2s, like the 8086 based Model 30, are supposedly able to run that drive, and that'll be the critical thing to determine. And of course, I'll work with the software on the system too. But we just have an hourglass for now, and if we don't have that Kingston driver, I could very well understand that things are slower than what they should, even though that's a 20 megahertz Kingston SX Now board that's on there. And looks like it launches WordPerfect on startup. So there's a lot of the routine that I'm going to need to go through and correct. It evidently it's designed to go through and launch WordPerfect at startup. Just somebody powering up the system. And it's, understandably, it's got the 4 megabyte of planar RAM, but this is going to probably take its time. I do see the access light to the Model 3286 blinking away there. And these are not any speed demons of drives as it was either. So at least we're getting as we saw, this is 5.2, WordPerfect 5.2 for Windows. Doesn't have a license number listed there. Program release of 5/30/1993. You can even edit the license number, apparently. We're going to go through and, oh, somebody's resume is on here. I'm not going to show that. Maybe they wrote their resume at the business they're working at, and then the next step they left. It's got an Epson directory or group, Epson group. The zip tools. Parallel port accelerator. This should be interesting. Our standard accessories. For Windows 3.1. Our applications. Its group is empty. Although it might even be good. In fact, let's go through and reopen it. And let's go through and reopen our startup. We're going to drag. I'm going to try and drag that out of there. Why can't we? Or is it still thinking about it? I don't want to run it. I want to. Okay, now see the hard drive going. We do a Control X and a Control V. Or just the system's going to think about it a little bit more. I'd like to move that over, get it out of the startup. but maybe we can worry about that some other point. And Solitaire and Minesweeper for the games. Okay, and didn't mean to show anybody's name. And that's a odd enough of name that could even be Googled, but so let's go through. In fact, I thought I could drag an item from one group to another, but I may have to work through that in another manner. Bad command or file name. So we're going to look at, let's first do, we saw an MS, or excuse me, IBM DOS version 6.1, revision 0. Let's go through and type, see how big that autoexec.bat file is. So again, we see just the guest exe for that zip tools, and it's got a remark in front of it. And then we have it where it launches Windows, and it also does the WordPerfect for Windows, which is a Windows program. So conceivably, that is what is giving the bad command or file name. Did load the mouse driver. I trying to remember. I don't think we have an Autoexec, or excuse me, we don't have a full screen editor, but oh yeah, we do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do remark, so you can have a little bit more control of startup. And see, it's interesting that mouse is commented out, although the mouse/P is in there later, which should run. We should have a mouse. There we do. Okay. Alt FX, Alt FX to save and to exit. Let's look through. Okay. So again, we're still not seeing any of the Kingston software there, though. And I think I'm going to go through, and of course, we have to determine if we even have a working A drive. Yeah, it doesn't like that. And so there might even be some workarounds for that. This would be a good system to try that 34-pin diskette drive adapter on too. Hint, hint. Let's go through and abort. So let's do a directory of the C drive, just to kind of look. So we're gonna have to get that Kingston file, those Kingston files on there a different way. And I've got a method for that. Let's even see what it thinks for the time and date. Yeah, without running the startup, the the starter diskette, it thinks it's back in 1980. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to get set up with another diskette drive so we can at least run the starter diskette and continue on from there. So that took quite a bit of time, but I've got the components that I need to continue. So I'm going to go through and get off the built-in webcam. And so what I've done is I've gone to my little Panasonic drive that's my go-to, has the PS2 pinout, just as a way to go through and be able to get a diskette drive on this thing quickly, and I've got that starter diskette that's loaded in here right now. Of course, the system is off. I've also gone through and I pulled the Dallas module and I put on that one that I can go through. And actually, I should have pulled the battery out during the wait as well, because this has configuration, I think, for another MUL 3286 is what it was attached to before. And I'll go through, I'll get that in. Now I do have the Kingston files that I've downloaded, and I've actually got to where this is the release notes, or how to go through and do the installation. This is the contents of that diskette drive. And then I went through and went on the Ardent tool, just searched for Kingston, and it brought up, of course, those files that I downloaded to make up the diskette. There's a whole bunch of different formats. I just grabbed the zip file and uncompressed it on my tweener system, and then put it over to diskette. So I'm all set with that. And then I had that read.me file there, and it talks about the steps. And this is going through and considering the installation from scratch, where you would go through and you have Windows 3.1 in basically a 286 mode. You're running on the 3286 with the native CPU, and then you do the Kingston upgrade, and to how to go through and to change the files. They're recommending that you go through and reinstall Windows for the sheer fact of how the shifting over to the 386 mode of Windows 3.1. Now I'm going to go through. We're gonna run the starter diskette, and we even have that speed utility that we can check as well. And I think I'm trying to remember too whether and there's to where that ktccash goes into, and I think that is I think that's a batch file. I don't think that's a sys file. So we may be able to go through, run it from the command line, and then go through and check the speed once again. So let me get shifted over to the video capture. I'm sure it's still counting the RAM with that 4 megabyte of planar memory. We have 161 and the 163 error. And it does have the starter diskette in the drive. So it goes through. I did a directory read of this. going to do that. I'm going to pull the battery again. Okay. And so it acts like it's running now. Or do I still have? Yeah, I just see the disk access light on. Of course, the cursor's blinking away. And I'm not hearing anything from the drive. Now, I have a few of these diskette drives around. I'm going to go through one more time. And otherwise, it might just even effectively be the time and date that even though running that starter diskette would be great to do. Okay. We're going to get okay there. Oh, and we'll have to see if this gives us any further issues. Okay. So this error appears if you have a problem with non-volatile memory, and I did replace, and of course it didn't set the time and date. Okay. Let's just see if we can get in there and see if it'll boot a second time to this and we should get the time and date warning still effectively on this. And the disk that I have that's with the Kingston files, like I could have made that a boot diskette, but didn't. But I've got the speed utilities to test the Kingston CPU. Okay, 161, 163. And I could have set the time and date otherwise. At least on the second time it booted correctly. And we're getting the same. Okay, has been off more than 30 minutes. It should be a good battery and everything else in that. Let me go through and do this. I do have my battery bag here. And so I'm going to go through and give it a fresh battery so that I may have a voltmeter here and all that I can do as well. I'm pretty sure I've got all my pins in correctly. Okay. It's going to restart again. So this is going to be a longer video based on going through these steps and all the searching that I had to do to get the components here. I thought I was prepared and looking for this diskette drive. We'll see if that goes through. And I'll need to modify this Dallas module that is in there at some point, just so I can pass this on to the next system and kind of keep my Dallas module with the external battery that I have just as a quick plug-in that I can do to keep it separate. Okay. So did better there. We didn't have that 161 error. We have the 163, which is time and date. And as I say, of course, you can set the time and date independently of the starter diskette just from DOS itself. Okay. So again, at least this starter diskette is running for us correctly now. And we get time and date. Okay. So it's under set features, set date and time. Okay. And so it gives an 87 date, and that might even be the BIOS date. So we'll do 03. Oh my goodness. Okay. And it is late. Okay. This is a escape to exit. Okay. So we're going to go through. We will escape to quit. We're going to eject the starter diskette that we made. Again, I need to get labels made for these. And this should go through and boot perfectly fine. And we'll go through and we'll even copy I just have the diskette halfway inserted into the drive. I'm going to boot from the hard drive now. And I went through earlier, remember, in the Autoexec.bat, I commented out the where it starts up Windows and starts up that WordPerfect for Windows. So this should just boot to DOS. Now we've got the smart drive and some things, and those actually look correct in this case. Okay, it's going through and accessing the hard drive. It's got the double buffering, loads the mouse driver. Okay. Software multiple. Okay, that's part of the mouse driver. Okay, so we're going to go through. I did a directory earlier. See how much space we have left over. Okay. Oh, excuse me. So we're going to go through and we're going to make a Kingston directory. Change directory to Kingston. And we have the diskette in the drive, and we're going to copy everything, all the 4 files that are on the A drive. Okay, so the batch file of speed goes through, and I've worked with this before. We've got those files copied over, so we're effectively done with this diskette as well. So I've got in fact, let's go through, we'll put that back into this system here. Still thinks it's in the drive because I actually have the README from that diskette opened. So we're going to go through and we're going to do the speed batch file. And that goes through and it actually doesn't test, I think, the video the way that Kingston has it set up. Okay. So this performs like a 6 megahertz AT. Clearly that cache is off. It doesn't have the Kingston drivers. So whoever's operating this, they were making the system basically slower than what it had been just with even a regular 286 CPU. So we're going to go through just the escape should do an exit. Okay. And we're going to do just to show, we've got that KTC cache exe. KTC cache. Okay. And I think this has got a switch on, okay, enable or disable. So we're going to do KTC cache / or let's actually -e. Okay. Cache is enabled. So we're going to run the speed program once again. And wow, now we're operating as a 20 megahertz AT. So just that aspect. Now I'm going to go through. Let's actually go through and I want to see on Windows. Okay. And actually, okay, let's just do this. Let's go through and we'll run it from the root directory. This is what we would put in the batch file in just a moment here. To, I want to actually disable it. Okay. Let's go through and start up Windows. Now, Windows should tell us and I looked before, I didn't focus enough on whether it showed that it was in 386 mode or not. And I think that would be present, just like that cache is, turning the cache on is what really helps the performance of that Kingston CPU daughter card. And it's, of course, going to want to run the WordPerfect again on startup. I didn't get that switched. Okay. Probably in process of starting that WordPerfect for Windows. And we'll get that out of the startup group as soon as we can here too. I should have done that before. Or it might even be a good test to leave that in, and the next time we have that KTC cache, and there's some entries I'll have to do. I'll have to work with. Okay. And so I'm looking through. That's Windows 3.0. Even has an area that talks about AutoCAD as well. Okay. So let's go through. Exit the, and we're going to look under our, maybe we're just waiting on our drive to clear. Okay. So about Program Manager. Okay. So it is in 386 enhanced mode. So what we're going to do, we're going to exit out of Windows. And I think otherwise, because we don't have a network card in this, we don't have any adapter in this actually. So we're going to go through and let's edit our config.sys. I just want to see if we've got the smart drive. And they're saying add the double buffering parameter, even though we've got, for this, we've got the smart drive.exe rather than smart drive sys for Windows 3.0. And I think that is, it has no EMS. Okay. So, I mean, the configuration otherwise here was recognize it was they're running the 386 level of configuration here. I don't really need to work with the Autoexec. I don't want to have that KTC cache running automatically yet until I can go through and let's go through and let's enable that. Okay. And let's try running Windows once again here. With that cache on, runs it at a higher, effectively is able to run, to perform better. And I want to make sure everything loads properly, of course. We're still depending a little bit upon that 45 megabyte hard drive. And still loading the WordPerfect for Windows on startup. That all seems about effectively the same. We'll see. Just have to see how this operation. It seems a little bit quicker to me, at least. Yeah, still very dependent upon that hard drive. I don't know for the video. I guess it has segments for this that somebody could maybe do a little bit of the timing. Yeah, it still takes a lot. It still has to sort out a lot from that hard drive. But we do effectively have it running that. And so let's see. We're still waiting on the hard drive to kind of clean up, respond. Okay. So there, we're able to move that over to an applications directory instead of the startup. Now we have an empty startup. So if we go through and start up Windows, it's not going to run that WordPerfect for Windows now on startup. And so going through, okay, so at this point, I'm going to go through, I'm going to edit the autoexec.bat. Okay. So here it does have the smart drive. I'm actually going to go through and we're going to have echo off. With the @ sign in front of it, make sure that it doesn't even echo off. And that just goes through and turns off some of the presentation as it runs the batch file of the echo from. Okay, so let's go through, and we're actually going to go through and we'll, I think capitalization really doesn't matter here, but we have that KTC cache. Okay. Everything else looks pretty good. And I still don't want Windows to start up. When I power up. Okay. So we're going to do a Control-Delete. Of course, it does on a warm boot. It's not counting the RAM. Oh, and I didn't give it the correct command line as it was, and that's why it prompted me and said that it was invalid. So I'm glad to make mistakes that I can correct. Okay. So here we're doing a -E. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Okay, it should go through. We have the copyright Kingston Technology Corporation that flash by, cache is enabled. And so if we were to do to run that speed batch file. Okay. I don't see I don't see what I had wrong there. Okay. 28 megahertz AT. Okay. Let's go through and start up Windows. Okay, and without WordPerfect for Windows loading, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're in Windows 3.1. So we've got the system a little bit better configured now. Just really interesting that it had that Kingston upgrade, but wasn't loading the files to run that CPU daughter card correctly. And we corrected that. But we also have the benefit of that 4 megabyte of planar memory. That is fantastic. The IBM modules for that are very rare, hard to find. And when you do find them, it's a premium to buy them. And then that 45 megabyte drive for that's proprietary to the MAL 30, those 8086 based versions of the MAL 30 can run it with the later BIOS, but it was this 45 megabyte drive was released with those last models of the 3286 like I have. So that drive running is quite a bit of value as well. So I think we're doing great. So, I mean, this is probably a good end for a good enough for the outro of the video. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and click on the like button, and by all means, subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. But this is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.